Well, the thing I want to really explain is why and how seasons matter, and why and how energy can be different at different times of year, and people are going through different aspects of their life cycle at different times and different patterns. And if we could understand those patterns and how the patterns work in general, then we could get ourselves back into sync and harmony better. Because we need to be in harmony with the macro so that on the micro and inner we can be in harmony. So it's as above, so below, and it's how are you going to fit into the big picture? And there's a certain way that the big picture operates. And in our society, in our culture, when we think of things, we usually think something like this. So it's A to B. So we're going to go from point A to point B, and it's going to be a straight line, and that's the only way to get there. So that's how things work. But one of the things I learned in school, in Chinese medicine school, is how other cultures see the journey between point A and point B. And in some other cultures, they see the journey from point A to point B as something more like this. And that's still a two-dimensional representation, but you can see how there would be possible shortcuts from one place to another place by jumping. And it's kind of hard to see that because it's still flat. So now in our modern age where we have video and 3D rendering, we could really expand this out and see it for something more like this. So again, point A is back here and point B is here, and you don't have to go on this long path. You could go in a straight line as a shortcut. So you can raise your level of consciousness and go a relatively long distance in a short time instead of taking the long way to get there and eventually getting there. And what I do is help you to move from where you are to desired where you really want to be quicker by helping you to jump to higher levels and to access energy that's already there that might be just resonating at a lower level, and help to get that resonance into the higher levels. And there have been a lot of interesting things that have come from drawing these things over and over for the last few years. Like one of the things I noticed is this is also the way the planets work. So we could turn around this arrow and put it going this way and have this as the sun. And then each of these are the different orbits. So we could have Mercury, and then Venus, and then Earth, and then Mars, and then the super planets, the Jupiter and the Saturn are with big huge orbits like that. And as the sun is shooting through space, all of these planets are following it, creating like a ripple. And that ripple interacts with energy being shot out from the sun in the form of CMEs and solar flares. And that energy that's coming out of the sun is resonating with what's going on in the wake of the planets as it shoots through space. And that energy resonates also with people. And it also resonates between the planets and people. And understanding this sacred, holy science is useful information. Because right now in our current culture, we just look at, well, how do we get straight from point A to point B? And it's not that simple in reality. At a small level, that works. But as we get bigger and bigger in our contemplation and what we're thinking of, that way of thinking about things breaks down and doesn't work anymore. So a lot of people are familiar with, Newtonian physics it works. The apple falls from the tree, it's going to go in the direction of gravity, bonks you on the head, and that's That's a straight line. But in actuality, it's something more complex that's actually going on. And if we can understand that and plug into how that works, and this universal energy, which is always working to try to break down us. So there's a orange sitting on the tree, connected. And that orange is connected through the branches to the roots in the ground. And it's alive and fresh. It has a vibrant energy. But as soon as we pluck the orange off the tree, it's already starting to die. And in the matter of time, universal forces will work against the innate force inside the orange, and the orange will forget that it's an orange and become a pile of mush. And that's because it's not connected to its innate source, intelligence being the tree, or ultimately the ground and through the root system. So it's not connected anymore. When we can reconnect our human energy to the universal forces and not allow the universal forces to just chaotically break us down, but to get in harmony with the way that those forces are operating, then we can have a better life, have more energy, sleep better, heal, and just in general get the most out of what life's meant to be. So this way of talking about things is, it makes sense because we see these patterns, and this is the way a ripple would happen in a pond if we threw a stone. But there's also other natural patterns that energy flows in. So I have a regular plotted graph with the x and y. So there's y and x. And we have a sine wave. And that's the way sound energy works. And a lot of other types of vibrations work. And this actually is the Yin Yang symbol of Chinese medicine. So in the Yin Yang symbol, there's a little bit of the dark energy in the positive, and a little bit of the light energy in the negative. And if we just encapsulate that, we just look at that, that's the Yin Yang symbol, basically. We could smooth this out and make it so we can see it, do something like this. Oh, actually I should have left that light. That would be an erase thing. And this will be the dark. And then we could smooth that out. But that's the Yin Yang symbol right there. It's just continuing on. And that continuing on is this here. So it's a small Yin Yang, bigger, bigger, bigger. And that's what we're seeing here. And I could draw that there and see the positive and negative forces balancing each other out. In nature, it's more than just two forces, though. In the ancient Greek philosophy, they broke everything down to the four basic elements. And the four elements being oxygen, hydrogen, nitrogen, and carbon. There's the four elements represented by these four triangles. Here we're just talking about, well, we have the lowest of the low, and the lowest of the low is the thing that's always below is Earth. And the thing that goes down but not as low as Earth is water. So below water will always be Earth, and that's why the lowest of the low is Earth. And then there's things that go up. The thing that goes up is fire, but the thing that's always above even fire and feeding fire, it's everywhere, is air. So there's the four elements of Greek and Western ancient philosophy. And those four elements change into each other just the same way that this line, as it goes, changes from negative to positive and even balances out at zero at some points. So as the four elements are changing into each other inside of our body, it's that process of change, that natural transformation energy that we're using to help you heal yourself. So you'll heal yourself if we can get these to all transform and transmute into each other in harmony the way they're supposed to. according to the natural pattern. And there's different patterns that are prevailing at different times of year. So in Chinese medicine, they also talk about the elements, but they have a more advanced way where they have 5 elements. They also have a 4-element way, but they have a 5 elements. And this is a constructive cycle. So in this constructive cycle, the energy is going around this wheel, and we could start with water, let's say. So the water on top of the seed grows wood. The wood builds up the fire. Fire burns down and builds up the earth. The earth, clumped together, makes metal, and metal has a water-like quality. And there's this transformation energy going on in all aspects, and we can say that it's going in all aspects of the universe. Everything out there can be described by the way that these interact with each other. But besides this constructive relationship, there's also a destructive relationship. I'll go ahead and do that in a different color. And here, fire will melt the metal. And the metal will chop the wood. And the wood will break the earth. And the earth will dam or hold water. And water will put out the fire. So this is destructive. So at the same time, both of these processes are going on inside the body. The body is both building itself up and tearing itself down. In Western physiological terms, we call it anabolic and catabolic processes. So whenever a bodybuilder wants to build muscle, he wants to get anabolic, and that's the constructive. And they also want to break down their fat, which is destructive, just as an example. So these both are happening at all times, balancing out, creating the homeostasis in your body. And that breaking down and building up is happening in a certain balance that's happening in all aspects of life and the universe. Now we can talk deeper about these constructive and destructive cycles and go ahead and put more things into it to help us understand those interrelationships in the body. So I could use either one of these, or maybe it'd be better to even start a new one. I'll just do a new one. I'll put the organs with it. Small intestine, heart, relate to fire. For earth, we have stomach and spleen. For metal, we have lungs and large intestine. For wood, or water, is kidney and bladder. And finally, wood is liver and gallbladder. And we can interrelate those using both cycles. So like this, on top of each other. And now we can keep putting more and more things here as whatever we like. We could say, well, what emotions go on each one? Or what times of year is this? So we could say this is summer. This is the late summer. This is the autumn or fall. This is winter and spring. So winter becomes spring, spring becomes summer, summer becomes late summer, then autumn, and cycle again. So in the winter, it's just the seeds. In the spring, the seed starts to sprout. In the summer, the seed is really growing good. In the late summer, it starts to fruit. So there's more seeds. In the autumn, we just have all the seeds. And then that's the cycle. And we can just keep drawing forever and filling up each of the 5 elements and how they correlate to different things. So it's really like a rock, paper, scissors between the different aspects of energy that flow in your body. We could even ascribe these to different chakras. We could do so many ways of relating this. Really, what we want to gather from this is that there's this constant give and take going on. As it goes down, it also goes up. And as it goes up, it starts to come down. And it's just, as one starts to overpower the other, it moves into the next. It's important for us to understand this because at different times of year, different treatments or different approaches will be more effective than at other times of year. So the same way we have put these two together and to make that one, we can look at it like this too. So we could superimpose this on top of that. So the symbol for Earth in astronomy is a circle with a cross in it. And what that circle with a cross signifies is the compass. And we have it backwards. And the reason it's appearing backwards here is because we see that so many times in our culture, how they have correct information, but exactly opposite, so that we will not be too empowered by it, so that we'll be disempowered. So here, we're going to put it as we see it here, with summer at the top, and it's winter down here, and then spring and autumn. So at different times of year, different body parts, different aspects of your body, different energetic systems in your body are under more or less stress. At different times of year, like let's say in the spring, the liver and gallbladder are becoming full of energy, and the lungs and large intestine are lower in energy. And understanding that will help us to know about what patterns people will express, and also what organ systems we can use or feed in order to help health to return quicker. So a liver tonic will work better now than in the autumn, as an example. It's just based on what time of year the energy is doing something different inside your body. It has a different purpose. It's a different approach that we can take in order to get the quickest and best results. But even just looking at this, that right there, the compass, also reminds us of the clock. So I did a video about this, about the clock, and the clock is upside down too. It's another one. So it's 6, 12, 3, 9. And that clock could also represent the months of the year, and not just the hours, and how energy is doing different things at different times of the year. So here at the 12th month is when winter starts. And that winter is December 21st. And spring is March 21st. Summer is June 21st. And autumn is September 21st. So in January and February, so February, in particular February 2nd, is exactly the halfway point of winter. It's actually when the coldest part of winter is. Because it seems like if December 21st is the shortest daylight day and the longest night day, that shouldn't be the coldest day. But in actuality, the coldest day is usually closer to February 2nd. It just happens to be Groundhog's Day. So we kind of have this thing about, is it going to be 6 more weeks, which just happens to be March 21st, or will it be a shorter rest of the winter for 4 weeks? And that's a little mythical thing that we still carry into the present times. But the real beginning of winter is at the depth of winter here. And that's actually why September is the 9th month, but it has Sept in its name, being the 7th month. If you look at other languages, we have Primavera is spring, and that's first. So the real beginning of the calendar is here. And there's 7 summer months and 5 cold months. And just understanding all of these energetic imbalances and the way that energy is naturally moving helps us to get better results for people, especially in selecting herbs and essential oils and which acupuncture points to stimulate, all based on what's going on as far as clockwise, whether it's month-wise or even daily. At different times of day, different acupuncture points will work better than others also. The only thing that makes acupuncture what it is, as far as legally, is needles. So I don't need to use needles, so I still use acupuncture. I don't do needle acupuncture though, because it's not our culture, and I really felt like it was going to be too much of a pioneering thing, and I didn't want to have to revolutionize something new, but instead try to bring something into more consciousness that is from our culture. So it being from a different culture, I don't want to be the one who has to educate people about it. So I use my knowledge of acupuncture because it has a philosophy that helps the intent to be more pure. With a philosophy that has an assumption of health, it's much better for helping people than working off of a philosophy of an assumption of disease. So I'll always say medicine, they talk about pathology, and the patho means suffering. So they're going to look at what your disease is in order to stop the suffering. They're looking at pathology. And what I do is look at physiology and natural function and natural balance and the way things work in order to bring back natural function instead of trying to suppress pathological function. Because the pathology has a purpose. Your body's really smart, and it's not making a mistake by having pain or dysfunction. It's all purposeful. So I just want to help your body to get what it needs to get out of the pathological dysfunction, the dis-ease. In Chinese medicine, we'll say that everything in the universe has a quality that can be ascribed to one of the 5 elements. So an herb could have a fire-like quality, or an herb could have a water-like quality in the body. And that herb has an energy or spirit of, let's say, water. And so we have cucumber, and we know that it's good for dehydration. So we have cucumber water as an example. Or watermelon is another good one. Watermelon fruits and grows in the summer, which is the time that we need watermelon. Watermelon in the winter wouldn't make sense, because watermelon helps your body to create and hold water. It's good for dehydration. So the watermelon comes out at the time of year in the summer where we need it. And there would be therefore a advantage to using watermelon at that time of year. It's the same with any of the other herbs. So when do they blossom and fruit? When are they at their peak potency? And why that time of year? There's a purpose for it. There's a reason. So it's understanding of the energy of that herb that makes that oil that helps us to feed whatever organ systems of your body so that those organ systems can work better, and then you feel better, have more energy, and heal better. So when I talk about essential oils, I say the reason we call them essential oils is the essence in the plant. And the essence alludes to the spirit of the plant. And by spirit, we're not talking about a religious concept, but just a metaphysical idea that the chemicals in the herb are organized for a certain purpose. And that's why that watermelon, for instance, has to have summer energy in order to grow and blossom and fruit at that time of year. And we can take how the plant converts energy from the sun through the plant material feeding off of the earth and creates the plant itself and the fruit itself. And the plant is focused on producing that essence, and we can take that essence and feed our essence. The innate intelligence in us can be helped to organize itself by having something else that it resonates with at a different frequency that it can use as an example. So just like the different planets resonate at different frequencies to and from the sun, and that different resonance that they have based on their orbit and their trajectory at any different time, because Earth could be here in the orbit and the planet Jupiter could be over there in its orbit, and that will create a different resonance between the sun, Earth, and that planet, as well as each of the other planets. So you want to see this not as each one as its own, but as almost like just like going through water. Like this is just a stream of going. It's all one as it goes. Because we're all coming together almost as a unit, the solar system. So, and all of these are separate but yet together, balancing your one life force energy, your spirit that coordinates it all, in harmony with the bigger picture too. So, actually, one of the things that I talk about to help bring it all together and why we do this is there's a smaller level that we have control over. So there are these little guys, the bacteria, and the viruses, which are just little fragments. And then there's this animal level, and these are simple animals like jellyfish, and maybe a frog. I don't even know how to draw that. And then there's bigger animals like people, and then there's even bigger things like the whole planet, and then there's even bigger things like all the planets put together in the solar system. And there's only a certain level where mankind's ability to influence ends. And then there's a certain level where it's just too big of a scale. So we can influence the life of bacteria and simple lower animals, and even ourselves to a point. But how much of the planet can we really influence yet at our current level of technology? In time, this line will move over there, and we'll be able to influence everything on the planet. Science gets bigger and better. We have Star Trek technology, and we can fly away to different planets. But there's always going to be something bigger. It's a universal life principle. And right at these lower levels are within the domain of mankind's scientific capability. But out here, not within our scientific capability. We have the stars and galaxies and perhaps different universes, all kinds of stuff out there that are still coordinated and balanced and operating on certain principles. And the principles I'm talking about are true at all levels. Mankind's understanding is only true to a certain extent, as we can make it fit. What I'm talking about are things on concepts on a larger scale, and therefore they're of a higher level of truth. They're of higher consciousness. And if we can bring the truth from the far end over here into what we're doing over here, then our life can be much easier. We can get much better results, especially as far as health.